السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. I've received a few messages from people, from community members who've asked me why I haven't said anything or spoken out about the modern day lynchings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and David McAtee, and so many others, Ahmaud Arbery, um, and what happened not too long ago, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Philando Castile, all of these people who were either completely innocent or were suspected of having been involved in some crime, but crimes such as having a $20 fake check in the case of George Floyd, or being suspected of selling loose cigarettes in the case of Eric Garner. And we all agree that even if this was true, none of these crimes warrant a death sentence without due process. And that's exactly what was given to these people. But the reason why until now I haven't spoken out is for two reasons. Maybe you will disagree with my reasons, but uh, the first reason that I haven't spoken out about is because I have spoken out in the past. And I don't feel that just for me to, slap a statement on our social media channels and make a video like this, it's necessarily going to make any difference. Maybe it will add a little drop, and that is important. And I know a lot of people are doing that. And that needs to be done in whatever capacity that people can do individually. But from a position of leadership standpoint, where I am in my community, uh, I agree with the sister's message that one sister sent me, that we need to acknowledge what's happening there, because although we cannot make a difference, there are young brothers and sisters who look like George Floyd, who look like these people who have been lynched in broad daylight, murdered in broad daylight for no crime except in reality just being black. And these young people are looking at us and saying, what is the leadership saying about that? And it is important to say that yes, that is wrong. But at the same time, I have been, arguing with myself. What is it that I can say? What is it that should be said? What is it that's actually going to make a difference? There is what the Stephen Covey wrote about the circle of influence and the circle of concern. There are issues that are of concern to us, and this is of utmost concern to us. However, not every one of us necessarily have it within our influence to make any change regarding this at that level. But what we need to do is we need to take what is concerning us and try to see what we can do in the circle of our own influence. What we can do in the circle, meaning if I cannot make changes to American policing. I cannot make changes to federal laws, but I can make changes within my family. I can make changes within my community. And I need to focus on those. So a lot of organizations, a lot of masajid, they simply slapped a statement on their website. And the reason why I didn't want to do that until now, and I'm doing that because I want to do the acknowledging part. But I feel like just slapping a statement is like putting a band-aid on a serious injury. In fact, it is not even putting a band-aid. In some cases, it is like the shaitan plays with us and says, well, you have done enough. You have walked in a protest. You have done enough. But what really is needed is for us to see where can I make real change. And I think that, this is just my own personal thinking, that perhaps one of the best things that people can do, people who want to make changes, young people who want to make changes, I would say to go and apply for a job in the police department. Go and apply for a job in the police department. Yes, it's going to be hard to maybe get in. It's going to be hard to work your way up. However, this problem, we have cases in the case of Ahmaud Arbery where it wasn't police officers, but the overwhelming majority of these cases are actually police officers who have a gun in their hand. So if you want to prevent bad people, racist people from being the ones to have guns in their hands, and the law supporting them to be able to use that on very little reasons, why don't you become the person? And I want to say this to our young brothers and sisters, to actually consider becoming a police officer if you want to change this. And I'll tell you that uh, I grew up disliking police. And the reason why is because when I was 13 years old, I witnessed 9/11 living in New York City. I witnessed having to protect the masjid from possible mob attacks. I received death threats and I was chased by a group of people who wanted to cut my throat because I was dressed in a Muslim garb the day after 9/11 on September 12th. And I had to run into a shop to get basically shelter and protection from them. And they said, okay, stay inside. When those people went away, that's when I got out and quickly rushed to my house. But the reason why I grew up disliking police was because the police department was basically in New York City, especially, it immediately became like fishing for Muslim terrorists. And the young people that I was one of were the immediate targets of that. And we felt and we sensed that the police was always after us. And of course, this was actually proven true. It wasn't just an assumption. Later on, if you search my name on YouTube, you will see that there was a report that was leaked to the Associated Press, which named activities of New York City NYPD spies who had infiltrated Muslim groups, MSAs, Masajid. And in one of these reports was actually my name, that one of their spies had actually infiltrated my college's Muslim student organization. And he had gone on a trip, like a recreational trip that we went on. He had gone on that trip with us. And I actually had a car, so he was actually in my car. And he reported how many times we prayed, what our discussion was. He wrote down our names. And when that report was leaked to the AP, then AP contacted me, and I did a number of interviews which are still available online. But even with all of that, I wanted to join the police department. I like being a police officer or being in the army, but if it was because of 9/11 that basically put me off. But even with that, I grew up with a certain privilege, which is not the same as white privilege, but it is there nonetheless. I was never ever stopped and frisked, even though I grew up in New York in my teenage years, from the age of 11 till the age of 25. I was never ever pulled over without having an actual reason, like an actual broken tail light, or maybe speeding, or I didn't do much of those. But if I was ever pulled over, I was actually pulled over legitimately. I was never pulled over, where they say, well, you look suspicious, or you match this description of somebody who committed a robbery in the area. We know that all of those most of the times are just, you know, you know what they are. I was never ever treated like a suspect because of my skin color. I have been treated like that because of being Muslim in the post 9/11 era, at airports and things like that. But still, I did not go through that every day. And one of the changes that I had to make in my life, as soon as I was around 16, 17 years old, is that I got a bank account. And I used to use a credit card, even when I had cash in my pocket. If I ever traveled, I would make sure to use my debit card because I wanted to not let the FBI, who was definitely spying, think that they have some questions about me. So I used a debit card, or a credit card. Debit card is what I had at the time, so that they would always be able to see my activity, and they could make my life from those. They could track my movements. They could track what is it that I liked, what is it that I spend my money on. They could track that, and just to keep them off from actually physically bothering me. Still, I was detained, picked up from my house, not detained but picked up, interviewed by the FBI for 4 hours. But uh, but this was nowhere close to what black kids go through in their lives. My father never had to have a talk with me about, when Trayvon Martin was killed. The I was listening to a radio and station, and someone said that our parents teach us. This is a Black American speaking, that our parents teach us that when you buy milk from the store, always ask for a bag, because the bag is a sign that you paid for it. I didn't have to do that. And many times until today, I actually prefer not getting a bag, because if I already have it in a plastic container, which is not going to degrade, why do I need another plastic bag on top of it? But I've never had to have a talk like this from my dad. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to work on my circle of influence, which is my community, my family. And inshallah, this upcoming Friday, and this upcoming Friday, I'm going to be speaking on the topic of my khutbah is going to be Black Lives Matter: History, Meaning, and Purpose. Because a lot of the people that I am talking to do not really understand what is it that we're dealing with. They do not really understand what is the history, why there are so many black people in jail. They think that, yeah, they're all criminals. They don't understand why black kids cannot go to college just like brown and white kids go to college. They don't understand the social handicap that exists. So I'm going to work on my circle of influence and talk about that. There's a second reason why I did not speak out. And that's because as I was considering saying something, I felt like a hypocrite for speaking about an issue which I know that we have in our own communities, and specifically within our own community. I believe it was May of 2018 that an incident happened, and I waited a few weeks, and then I gave a khutbah about racism. And I was immediately disregarded, discounted, as this being perhaps my own imagination, and that nothing like this actually happens here. And some of you may remember this from that time. And I'm not going to air the dirty laundry in public, because that will not bring about any positive change that we need. But problems do exist, and they are really, really heartbreaking problems. And they are no different than what happens at a bigger level in the public arena. But I challenge the leadership of ISA to investigate the matter, to look into it, ask me, and I will tell you privately, and make the necessary changes that need to be made. And I challenge those of you who are not part of the ISA leadership but care about this to continue to ask for updates and say, hey, has that matter been resolved? Do we still have a problem? Because it is very easy for us to simply, like I said, slap a statement on our website and our social media. We condemn police brutality and this and that, while a smaller level of authority that we may have in our own sphere of influence, circle of influence, we may be actually discriminating and profiling people just the same way people in the police departments are doing. So I ask you all as well. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you feel that, yes, all of these are good reasons, but they're not good enough for us to be silent. I was thinking about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that whoever among you sees an evil, let him stop it with his hand. And if you cannot, then let him stop it with his tongue. If he cannot, then stop it with his heart. I felt like me making a statement is not necessarily going to stop something. So I felt that I would need to plan and execute that plan to actually bring about actual change and not just do a a statement just for the sake of show that, okay, I have done my part, I am free of the obligation, and now we go back to sleep and now we go back to our normal life as if nothing happened because, hey, we already made a statement. Let me know what you think about what I said. And if you have any ideas on how we can make lasting change. One thing that I really think about, and I think that it's important, and I know it happened in the aftermath of the police department shootings in Dallas a few years back, when the chief of police said that if you want to make a difference, come and apply for a position with the police department. If you want to stop that police brutality, why don't you come and put yourself in that line of duty and make the changes that you want to see? Be the change that you want to see. So this is my special request to young people and those elders who want to make that. Maybe you can encourage your children, instead of wanting a big fat paycheck, so you only push your kids towards the most high-paying professions. Think about community service and jobs which are actual community service, and encourage them to apply for those. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. I just want to say before I actually end this video is that anything and everything that I said are my own personal views. They do not represent an organization, any organization. They only represent me. That's it. Assalamu alaikum.